I guess I want to ask a question about Vortex experience. First, I want to say that I think I do better than I used to.
Of course you do,
I
yes.
get joy and satisfaction
Yes,
doing
of
things
course.
that I used to not enjoy at all.
This is a very powerfully fine-tuning question that you're asking here. We know that your life is wonderful, and we know that you've deliberately been improving it. We're speaking only to the precision of the point that you made with us. There's still stuff in your what is that you would like to be different. And we're just saying to you, you've got to ignore what is. You cannot keep observing what is, commenting about what is.
I have moved from, let's say, not enough money to very large accounts receivable. That's an improvement. Now, obviously, I'd rather not have large accounts receivable. I'd rather have that money. Now,
But hear this, because this is the thing that you're not hearing that we so want you to hear. Obviously, you'd rather have the money than the debt owed you. Obviously, you would. But it doesn't help to talk about it, because when you say accounts receivable, you say accounts receivable. You say money owed to me. And you mean money owed to me, and money being paid very slowly, and some of it I'm not ever going to get, and some of it's been on the books for a long time. That's what you mean. Accounts receivable means all of those things to you. It means hassle, it means billing, it means frustration, it means people ignoring you, it means it's getting bigger. Accounts receivable. What a loaded word that was, you see. So when you say accounts receivable, innocent, accounts receivable, accounts receivable. Oh, it's a very innocent sounding word, but it has all that baggage with it that as long as you're focused there, you are defying what's next.
I get that. Let me see if you can explain to me about Vortex experience. I had a wondrous experience this morning, a rapturous, blissful experience coming here from Austin. I left, it was still dark, and it's clear, and the sun starts to come up. I'm listening to this CD I had made of all these old classic 60s country tunes, and I'm not even a country guy. And I've somehow gotten to where I don't find country music to be sad and kind of miserable, because I resonate to the passion that the people who write the lyrics have, rather than actually literally what they say. And I'm driving down the road, and I'm getting goosebumps, and I'm crying, and I'm coming here to San Antonio, and it's like, so for me, that has to be in the Vortex. And there's other times when totally unexpected, I don't know what it is. It could be at a movie, I could be reading a book, I could be walking down the
Yes.
street, and all of a sudden something strikes me.
Yes.
And I just start crying.
Yes.
Okay. So for me, those are Vortex experiences.
Agreed.
Now they're so sudden and spontaneous that I forget to do affirmations when I'm experiencing that.
But this is the reason we're having this conversation. We want you to understand the leverage of the vortex, and the point that we're making here today in a more powerful way than we have made ever before is that whatever has your attention, you are training. You are training your vibrational muscles. So people are today, especially, really training their muscles of complaint more than they're training their muscles of appreciation. And so what happens is law of attraction, who's responding to their habit, in other words, it's sort of like getting in your car. Esther told the story the other day. She had a habit of a town she lived in years ago of always following the same route. And even if the route was flooded, she still followed the same route. That's a strong habit. In other words, and you have channels of thought patterns that you train yourself into that dominate your life experience. So much so that when you use a word like accounts receivable, seems like a perfectly logical word for a businessman to use. It's in the dictionary. It has meaning to your accountant. It is a viable word that a business person would contemplate and speak about. But we're just saying that word activates vibration within you that you don't want to continue to practice and perpetuate. You want to deactivate the vibration of debt owed to you and activate the vibration of abundance flowing to you. And you could even use the same word. In other words, a big accounts receivable is an asset. It's on the asset side of your books. And so you could make it feel like that, or you could make it feel like that. But you have to do the work. So what happens with so many people when they come to visit with us, or when they're trying to improve their life relative to anything, is they take the issue that is been bothering them the longest, and then that's the one that they want to go to work on. And what we're suggesting in a very powerful way here today is that those issues that you've trained yourself so emphatically to be outside the vortex about are not the things to focus upon to get in the vortex. So we would like all of you to hear us in such a way that when you leave here today, you have one thing on your mind and one thing only on your mind, and that is the vortex. How often I get in there, whether I blunder in, whether I stumble in, whether I coax myself in there deliberately, but I want to be in the vortex first and anything else I have time for. The vortex first and anything else I have time for. So what happens is, once we convince you that that really is, that there's so much leverage in the vortex. In other words, you don't get in the vortex. It's really interesting. You wake up and you don't have time to get into the vortex. So you don't do the work to get into the vortex, or you don't pay attention. And so you jump right into your day. And so you begin checking your emails and calling the people that you need to call, and noticing the things that need to be fixed, and getting the things lined up and making your to-do list. And then you begin feeling a little rushed for time. And then when you go to get something to eat, it's not there because you forgot to get it. And then you settle for something else, but you don't like it very much. And then you get it on you, and then you wipe it off of you, but it still doesn't look very good. So then you go to change your shirt, and you put on another shirt, and you realize that the cleaner has cleaned it, and some of the buttons are now missing. And so you take that shirt off and you put on another shirt you're not quite as happy with, and you catch it on the doorknob as you go out the door, and you don't care because you don't have time to go back. And then you get into your car and you push the garage door open, and the garage door doesn't open because the battery's dead and the remote control. And so then you get up and you lift the garage door up, and you get more stuff on you. And then you get in your car and you start the car, and you realize that your teenagers have used the car and they've crapped it out and they haven't taken the stuff out. And then you get out and you back out, and you back out and you head out on the street, and now you're just delayed enough that you just catch the bad traffic. And then you get to the end where there's ordinarily a traffic light that's working, but there's no traffic light there today. It's just blinking, and so everybody's making their own way. And is there a policeman in sight when you need it? No, the policemen are out harassing people instead of doing the traffic, doing something helpful or service oriented to humanity. And then you get into the office, and the first person you meet is the last person that you want to see, and there that person is, all full of information about it. And you just sit down and you just say, kill me now, just kill me now. Life's just too hard. Life shouldn't have to be this hard, you say. And that was the light version. That was the light version of what's going on. But if we have convinced you about the reality of this vibrational reality, this vortex, and you have been basking yourself to sleep a little bit. We'll talk more about that later. And you've been doing more affirming from inside the vortex, so that you've done the vortex work, so that now you have this leverage, you have this clear sight, you have this inclination, all of your impulses. We're not just talking about control of your own physical body. We're talking about in other words, it's one thing to be in the vortex so that you're breathing deeply, you're tuned in, so that you're coordinated in your own right, so that you're not banging into things and knocking things off of yourself and hurting yourself here and there and spilling stuff on yourself. And Esther's father used to call it shushlik. Don't be so shushlik, meaning moving forward without thought and then making a mess of things everywhere you go. It's not just controlling your own physical body. It's that if you take the time to get into the vortex first and foremost, it's now you are a vibrational match to the other cooperative components of the universe that are also there. In other words, if you take the time, hear this, if you take the time to get into the vortex and you milk it so that it's more likely for you to get there again, and it becomes more likely for you to stay in longer, so that you're spending a larger percentage of your time in vibrational alignment with who you really are, then law of attraction can only cause you to rendezvous with things that match you and everything you've asked for in the vortex. Do you know how much leverage that gives you? You don't have to deal with all of that stuff that's going wrong. You don't hear about it. For example, you don't see the traffic accidents. You don't see the traffic tie-ups. You don't hire the people who don't know what they're doing. You don't hire the people who have motives that don't blend with you. You don't do service for people who never had any intention of paying their bill to begin with. In other words, everything starts the way you want it to end up. That's the best way of saying it. When you are in the vortex more of the time, you don't start brush fires that you're going to have to put out later. There's a leverage in it. And it is our promise to you that for the rest of this day, we're going to talk about how to get in, how to stay in, 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 how to get in, how to stay in. And of course the vortex is going to occasionally push you out or spit you out because you're not a vibrational match to it. But today, right now on planet Earth, the majority of the people that you interact with in this Western civilization of which you are a part are less than 2% in the vortex. No percent in the vortex deliberately, really. They just blunder in occasionally. They spend over 95% of their life out of the vortex. That's who most people are. And you deserve to be, if you can get yourself to the place where you're 55 or 60% of the time in the vortex, not all the time, just 55 or 60% of the time in the vortex, your life will be transformed in such a way that people who are watching you will not believe what they are seeing. In other words, we're not talking about going cold turkey vortex. We're talking about understanding it and caring enough about how you feel that you're willing to sacrifice the negative life for the positive life. What a price to pay. Good time for a segment of refreshment.
Thank you. Thank you very much.